Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the XForceGlobal channel. Today we're going to be updating our Ethereum Elliott Wave counts and see if we can make any adjustments from our last update. But just very quickly, please make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Your support really means everything to me in this world. I love you guys and girls. Now, in this video, we're going to be discussing two scenarios that I've narrowed down. The first scenario here that we have is the idea of a possible triangle continuation to the upside. Now, nothing has changed for this scenario. We've also discussed this idea in our previous video, and it's truly the best option we have right now, ladies and gentlemen, if we're really going to take into consideration for the extremely ugly price action that has been built up, but there is evidence from a simple technical analysis observation that can help support it, such as higher lows being created, from a multi-year since 2022, we've been creating higher lows. It's just been lagging. That's the only thing against Bitcoin. And arguably the triangle look that the general market participants may see who are also not versed in the Elliott Wave Theory. So we're going to take that into consideration as well for the possible evidence. Now, the triangle idea is, again, the only idea that gives us a pretty clear target as well, or a rational target, that is, just based on the post-triangle thrust measurement, where you take the widest part of the triangle to measure the post-breakout of the triangle to get our fifth wave. Now, that leads us to around $9,000 to $10,000 as a normal target, and that still gives us a relatively bold conservative target, or rational target, that is, when compared to the second scenario that I'm going to be going over in just a second. But the reason why we're sticking to this triangle idea for the time being is because of how the degrees are subdivided. It's best to see this whole range as a series of threes, meaning that we have this as an ABC going into the first wave A, we have a WXY complex double zigzag going into wave B, we have an ABC going into a C, an ABC going into wave D, and an ABC going into wave E. Now, many of you might think that if this triangle is invalidated just because we broke below this AC trend line of the triangle, which is the bottom line here, when you're looking at it from a bullish perspective or a bull market, but we didn't invalidate it because we are still above that C wave. So I've marked it here for those that are new to the Elliott Wave Theory, as long as you're above the previous subwave or the major invalidation subpoint, it's gonna be absolutely valid. Now, it is also very common when you're taking consideration of the literature of the Elliott Wave Theory. It is also very common for the ABC of this E wave to breach that AC trend line because of small or slight market inefficiencies to occur along the way, and this is one of them. And also, we did get a quite nice rebound off the lows, and we're just kind of stalling around here, and this trend line might act as support and resistance over the next few weeks, and then eventually we should be finding some evidence on how this wave 1-2 is going to be created before we create another 3, 4, 5 to the upside, eventually being the expansion phase for that fifth wave that we're looking for to conclude this bull market. But nevertheless, I do see a strong bear market, that is, right after we do reach these levels over here. In fact, I might even start taking profits around these regions over here because you never know. And once you start breaching the all-time high, it's still a technical valid fifth wave no matter what. So all we're going to be looking for in the next few months is going to be how this fifth wave is going to be comprised as a five wave in itself. So this idea is still on my list. I think that this idea is still the best idea in terms of how we can subdivide it, considering of all the inefficiencies taken into consideration, and the best way we can divide it is a series of threes. So this is the first idea, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the second idea is an alternative, extremely bullish scenario. Now, this bullish scenario does have its merit, but it is way too ambitious for me right now, but it does still pertain to having an okay look as long as we get out of this region now. So if we take into consideration of how this can be built up as a five-wave move to the upside for that fifth wave, like we have been looking for that triangle, instead of seeing this as a range in itself, this is part of an accumulation phase in a series of 1-2s, meaning that this move here is now considered a sideways structure as an ABC of that first degree that we're looking for of this fifth wave, and then we're now working in the expansion phase, or the extension of how this subminute degree in the green is playing out. So we have a 1-2 here, and then we might now also have another 1-2 here. This idea is also pretty nice in the sense that I've been taking the time, or I spent many hours on how to subdivide this as best as we can without trying to truly sacrifice the overall integrity of the validity of each count. Now, if we're doing it from a top-down analysis perspective, you can see it does actually have a pretty nice look to it when you're taking into consideration of how this extension is playing out. So if we have this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, we just may be working for a fifth wave that may be taking longer in time. And as you can see here, it would have been nice if we actually just finished off here as an idealized Elliott Wave 5-wave structure, but we didn't get that. But it is absolutely fine as long as we're still working with the integrity of a series of 1, 2s without having too many of them. I would really maximize it when you're working with 3 degrees as only 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And any further, it would be really a different count. But right now, we do have a possibility of having a series of 1, 2s, and we may not be working in the extension of a wave 3, and then an extension of this primary degree, and then eventually completing off this higher degree wave 3. Now, interesting, ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly how Bitcoin looked like before it actually went for its extension back in the actual range that we've been creating a series of 1, 2s. Remember, we've been talking about a series of 1, 2s being created. Well, we did the same thing for Bitcoin by creating 3 degrees of 1, 2s, and then eventually finishing off the wave 3, 4, 5s along the way. So that's where we're now kind of concluding for Bitcoin on the fifth wave, as it's now already within this sub-minute degree or even a minute degree that we're looking for a fifth wave to the upside. But altcoins are lagging, especially Ethereum, and Ethereum is one of those that is lagging extremely hard within this bull market. So this is the real only true way that I would be able to count it. So if we zoom in and we look at the daily chart once again, if we look at the actual way that it is counted, I'm taking into consideration as best as we can for the market psychology that is also combined with this, that this may just be an accumulation phase, not as a triangle, but as a series of 1, 2s. If this is a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, I think a lot of people are trying to figure out if this is a range in itself where we may have a 1, 2 here and then having this as the 1, 2. You know, I do have that in mind as a market inefficiency as well, but it is so difficult, especially if you're seeing this as an ABC. You can't count 5 waves in here. It just simply looks like a 3-wave move here. And then you also have the possibility of a flat idea or a sideways combo idea, but really you can't even have 2 zigzags as a possible combo idea. So that idea also is losing its validity. So I'm seeing a lot of people, mark their 1, 2s here, but they don't show their work on how they can do it. And I completely understand why that may be a possibility, because it's truly hard to validate this overall sideways 1, 2. But when you zoom out, it does actually portray a sideways structure. So that's where we have to take that into consideration and also really be structuralizing this as best as we can as a series of 1, 2s once again. And if we do, that also helps validate, not only validate it, but also take into consideration of the market efficiency that this is an ABC, this is an ABC. So this is a 1, 2, 1, 2. And we really need to move out of here now, meaning that this intermediate degree is going to be moving up. And if we're going to also take into future consideration of how these 3, 4, 5s are going to be playing out, again, it's a little bit too early to call for until we actually get the extension of this wave 3 of the primary degree to happen. But again, we do have a sideways 1, 2, a really long sideways 1, 2, both in time and in size, that this 3, 4 of the higher degree is going to be sharp, where people are going to start taking profits. Very possible. And then, same thing with the other respective degrees. I've put a note here. But the only drawback to this scenario, the only drawback, ladies and gentlemen, is that you have to assume that Ethereum is going to be going for a mega bull run, okay? And a mega bull run meaning that we're not even going to stop at 10,000. We're stopping around, $30,000, $50,000 possibility. But as you can see, that is extremely ambitious. That is why we have to take into consideration of both market psychology and also the market inefficiencies of these internal degree counts, that the only real way that we can see this is a possible triangle idea that also helps us give us a clearer target that the fifth wave is not going to be as ambitious. So we have to resort to this idea where this triangle is also not the best looking idea. However, it does give us the best balance of probabilities that this fifth wave is going to end around $7,000 to $10,000 before we go for a larger pullback, just like we're expecting for Bitcoin. So this idea right now fits as the highest probability right now until it actually truly invalidates this triangle. By breaking this C wave, it also invalidates the possibility of this being a 1, 2, 1, 2 structure. So we have clear invalidation levels, ladies and gentlemen. There's really no other way to see it. And if you guys are asking for a possible bear scenario, I currently do not have the best way of looking at it, other than a possible WXYXZ to the upside as a B wave, and then we work for a C wave to the downside where this is a larger ABC to the downside. But for now, that idea is really out of the picture because, like I said in the beginning of the video, we really want to be breaking two levels of higher lows that were created in the past, and we want to be creating at least two lower lows before we actually start taking into consideration for a bearish scenario. So as you can see, I did my best by narrowing down the two scenarios for Ethereum as one extremely bullish scenario that you have here, and the higher probability scenario that we have more rational approach to this and a little bit of an easier separation of the degrees, especially for this right here. This looks more like a three-wave structure here. You know, I've really taken into consideration on even having a leading expanded eye going into 1, 2, 3, 4, and then having a truncated wave 5. But again, even that has its problems. There's just too many market inefficiencies happening. But the best way we can do is just go back and resort to how the simple market is looking at it, which is higher lows that have been created, and then we apply the wave theory on top of that as best as we can, and then having a valid structure or not is going to be the key point here, ladies and gentlemen. So hopefully that was helpful. Those are the two scenarios I'm looking at it right now. This triangle idea is still on my radar as the highest probability. Thank you very much. And again, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We also offer a Discord membership where you'll be getting more micro time frame updates and more timely updates for Bitcoin and altcoins. So if you're interested in joining that, there's a link in the description below. Same thing with Patreon. We have 2 video updates as well. There's a lower paywall for that. If you're interested in joining the Patreon where I update on Wednesdays and Fridays, please don't hesitate to join that if you want to get a taste of what I have what I can offer as a service for you guys as well. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Bye-bye.